Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nick Reads and the Original Nick Show. Um, I was really bored, so we're gonna do the Fall of Reach Part 2, which is like Chapter 2 and 3. Some other time. So, like the rules I was doing last time is I do a bunch of readings now, live for everyone to see, and then I edit them and then upload like proper versions to the Original Nick Show on YouTube. So if you want to see like the finished product, as it were, then come back to the Original Nick Show in a couple of days, and you'll have an edited version of whatever story you wanted to hear. So right now, I found one called The Red House. You can find this one creepypasta.com/the-red-house. If you want to find this one, this is by Beings and Beings and Entities. This is by, I can't tell. A lot of ads on the Creepypasta website. It's kind of old and annoying, but so this one's gonna be like 11 minutes or so. That's what it says the reading time is. So we're gonna do some readings, and then, like I said, we're gonna edit them and then upload them to the Original Nick Show after in a couple of days. And I hope you enjoy, because I enjoy doing this for you all. The Red House. I was never a believer in the supernatural. I didn't care for all those illogical ghost stories. I always mocked my friends for telling them. They aren't real. They can't be. At least, not until I figured it out the hard way. It was the end of August, right before school was about to start again. I was 17, about to enter my senior year, and beyond ready to graduate and move from my small hometown in the middle of scenic nowhere. Of course, knowing on Jake, he always had something to end the summer with a bang. "This is the last vacation we have together," he had said. "We have to do something epic." I rolled my eyes at him. "And what could you possibly have in mind?" We had been sitting in my kitchen, Katie in on the couch with her boyfriend Lucas, wrapped around her as she jumped at a horror film on the TV. Lucas laughed at her skittishness, and I couldn't help but scoff at it. What a baby. I picked up the butter knife and smothered mayonnaise on some bread as Jake contemplated the big game plan for the summer end bash. I shook my head. "All out of ideas? Don't strain yourself, big guy." "How about the Red House?" The TV clicked off as Lucas rose from the couch and walked over to us. "No way, Jake. I'm not going to that place." "Yeah, me either," called Katie from the sofa. "What's the Red House?" I asked. All three of them looked at me like I was crazy. Lucas let out an exasperated laugh. "What's the Red House? It's only the most cursed place in this whole city." "Okay, one, this isn't a city. It's barely a town. Two, there's no such thing as curses." Katie shook her head as she joined us at the counter. I had abandoned my sandwich. "Tara, I know you don't believe in that stuff, but trust me, it's not fake. People have died in that house, and their bodies were never found." "Then how do you know that they died?" I asked sarcastically. "You guys are such crybabies." "So you're saying you'll go in and prove us wrong?" I don't know why I hesitated. My gut felt like something was off. But it was all fake, right? There was no way ghosts, especially ones in some rat-infested old house, could make people go missing. There wasn't anything wrong with it. "I'll go pull up a map," I said, walking to the living room and grabbing my laptop. I flopped down on the chair and I put my feet over the armrests, opening the internet and searching up this Red House. As Jake, Lucas, and Katie all discussed a supply list, I shook my head and clicked on a link to the Wikipedia page for this alleged legend. The Red House was an 18th century building that was the home to the Red family. They were a middle-class family, known to keep to themselves, even having the mail slot placed just an opening to a large fence so no mailman could enter the property. The only member of the family who would regularly leave the house was the father, who worked at the steel mill across town. I stopped reading for a moment. My dad used to work at the old mill, too, until they closed it down due to mechanical issues. My mom and him got a divorce after that, and she had been working non-stop just to provide for the two of us. Rolling my eyes at my own thoughts, I kept reading. The father would be seen leaving for work in the morning with a kiss from his wife and son and daughter waving goodbye from the gate. Witnesses say that the daughter always covered her mouth any time she was seen outside. On September 17th, 1857, a wagon had been moving through the nearby woods along the path across from the fence at dusk. The man steering his two horses looked away to grab a canteen when the horses suddenly bucked and ran. They jolted forward, racing along the trail until the man felt the wagon hit a large bump. He finally got his horses settled enough to dismount and see what they had hit. The man was shocked to see a child laying on the bloody heap on the road. She was gasping for air with blood coming up from her mouth. Where now ripped stitched lined her lips. That's bad. She looked up at the man and said, "Please make the red stop." She died on the road, but her body was never recovered by the authorities because it was gone, and they came in to investigate. She died on the road, but her body was never recovered by authorities because it was gone when they came to investigate. The case was dropped and the man was committed to a mental institution. Soon men and women would go missing down the path as their horses stampeded into town without their riders. After a pregnant woman by the name of Anna had disappeared, the authorities decided to investigate the Red family to see if they knew anything. One officer knocked and waited for a response. Receiving no answer, he had two other men kick in the gate and enter the house. Inside, the walls were painted with pentagrams and demonic symbols. Knives still stained with blood hung from the hooks on the wall, and the entire building reeked of death. Going further into the property, the officers found the wife in the kitchen, cooking at the stove. She had turned to the officers, smiling at them with blood dripping from her stitched lips. The woman held a finger to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She pointed to the basement where the screams of a young boy could be heard. The wife pulled out a pen and wrote on her arm, showing the police. It said, "Harold doesn't like us to speak when he collects the red. Our son must have talked too much, just like Rachel." She then pointed to the corner, where the rotting body of a small girl had been trampled by horses was slumped against the wall. The two officers stared in horror as the father came stomping up the steps with a bloody knife and a spool of thread and a needle. He looked at the two men and smiled, saying, "Oh, welcome. Sorry for the noise." Carter didn't want to hold still. The one officer said that they were under arrest, but the father still smiled and said, "All right, but he won't be too happy if we have to go. He'll get hungry." When asked who he was talking about, the father replied that they had to collect the red for the creature in the basement. At that moment, the boy screamed again, accompanied by a roar and the sound of flesh tearing. The one officer who escaped described an arm being tossed up the basement stairs before he bolted from the home. He also said that the creature was large with glowing red eyes and horns on its head. As the officer ran, the father called to him to come home sometime and thanked him for the donation. When the home was reinvestigated, the mother, the father, and son had been dismembered, each of their mouths sewn shut. "What the hell kind of messed up bull is this?" I said over to them. Jake glanced over, chuckling. They said that the mom will lure you in and the dad will try and sew your mouth shut. If they find you, you'll be torn to shreds by the beast." "Unless the girl likes you," said Lucas, his voice trembling. "What?" "The daughter. Last time a group went in, there was one kid who got out, and he said the daughter stopped the creature so he could get out. He was the only survivor. At least for a while he was found dead. At least for a while. He was found dead after explaining that to the police, remember?" I rolled my eyes. "Curses and ghosts. You guys are way too gullible." Shutting my computer, I stood up and walked over to them. "So, when are we going?" The next night, Jake drove us to the dam, where he turned down one of the barricaded paths. It was just starting to get dark as we all reached the other side of the metal gate and started down the trail. Weeds overgrew everything, and it was too quiet. I heard a small giggle, and I directed my attention to a small shape behind the tree. "Did you guys hear that?" "Hear what?" asked Lucas. Katie wrapped her arms around herself. "Quit trying to freak us out, Tara. I know you don't believe in this stuff, but some of us do. I'm not... Ugh, never mind." I stomped forward and fell into step with Jake and Lucas as Lucas comforted Katie. "Did you really hear something?" he asked, looking at me skeptically. I looked out into the woods. I swear I heard laughing, and I saw something. It must have been My words cut off as a head poked out from behind the tree trunk. It was too dark to see, but by the time I turned my flashlight and shined it towards the spot, it was gone. I hadn't realized I had stopped walking until Jake nudged me. I jumped and smacked him, telling him not to sneak up on me. "Whoa, little Miss Fearless, actually scared?" "Shut the hell up." I trudged forward, stopping dead in my tracks as the old house behind the worn wooden fence came into view. The shingles were falling off the roof, and the siding was broken and rotten. A few of the windows had been smashed in, and the door shut with a padlock. "How do we get in?" I asked, but Jake was already on it. He was crawling through a hole made by a missing fence post. "Come on, hand me a light." Katie tossed him a flashlight from her backpack, pulling out her favorite pink one herself. They both followed Jake, but I stopped for a minute, catching sight of a small figure again. It looked like a silhouette of a small girl. She was wearing a torn nightgown and holding a teddy bear with one of the arms ripped off. I could just make out her holding a finger to her lips, and I hear her shushing me before Lucas... Oh my gosh. I could just make out her holding a finger to her lips and hear her shushing me before Lucas's shout made me look away, giving her time to disappear again. I raced under the fence, asking what happened. "He's just being a baby," Jake said. "No, I swear I saw something. Over there," he shouted, pointing at the old shed. He jumped and screamed as a raccoon came out of the doorway. "Wow, now I have to say that creature of the basement is way more underwhelming than I expected," said Jake sarcastically, patting Lucas's shoulder. Lucas shrugged off his hand and placed an arm over Katie's shaking shoulder, starting towards the door, which was now half open with the lock on the ground. "Wasn't the door locked?" I asked, pointing my light towards it. Jake shrugged. "Probably not, considering it's open." "Shut up, smartass." I brushed past him while he was laughing, slowly walking up the creaking steps. My fingers had barely touched the door when it swung open with a loud creak. Jake shut straight up. A small giggling sound from the bushes to my left, but I managed to ignore it. I was just being stupid. None of that crap about ghosts was real, and nothing was actually there. I was just imagining stuff. "So there's 4 of us. That means it's basically the luck of the draw?" "What do you mean?" "Each member of the Red family will pick a person. It's like Russian roulette, but we don't get the choice to play or not once we go in." "The dad will sew your mouth shut. The mom will hold you until the creature kills you. The son will play a game where you may not escape. And the daughter will save your life, said Katie, meeting my gaze with wide eyes. But only after you watch the others die. I shook my head, forcing a laugh. Cute story. Can we get this over with now? My 3 friends stepped onto the porch and slowly entered the house. Immediately I smelled rotting flesh. Even though the place had so much dust on the floor, the walking on it could have caused footprints. There was no way there was a dead body in there. Was there? I moved my flashlight around the room, seeing rusted knives on hooks and pentagrams painted on the chipping walls. I could feel my heart racing. A creaking noise made us all turn to see Lucas opening the door to one of the rooms. It looked like a child's room, with an old toy box on its side. By the bed and a small security blanket on the floor. "Want to play?" came a boy's voice before Lucas whirled around and the door. "Want to play?" came a boy's voice before Lucas whirled around and the door slammed shut. I could hear him scream in terror and crash like he had knocked something over. "Lucas!" shouted Katie. She ran over to the door and yanked on the knob with all her might, but it wouldn't budge. Jack yanked her back while I stood there frozen. This can't actually be happening, I thought. "Come on, we'll go find something to bash it down," he suggested, panic filling his voice. He left Katie crying by the closed door, cringing with every scream and bang on the door. Suddenly, Lucas screamed in agony, the sound of liquid hitting the door shortly after before a loud thud. "Lucas?" Katie croaked. "Lucas!" Blood seeped out from under the door as she slowly turned the knob. She pushed it open and covered her mouth to keep the scream as Lucas's head rolled out into the hall. I caught her as she ran over to me. Holding her, she cried against me. I couldn't stop staring at it, like a horror movie come to life. "Wait," I said. "Where's Jake?" Katie shook her head. "I don't know." I pulled towards the kitchen, stopping as I saw the basement door hanging open. "Jake?" I called. No one answered. "Let's go down." "No way!" she screamed, pulling away from me. "I'm not going down there." "Then stay here," I demanded before putting my flashlight down the stairs. Jake's shoe prints marked down each step into the dust. I took a breath before starting down. The basement was cold like a freezer. I could hear water dripping from the ceiling and flies buzzing. "Jake," I called in a whisper. I shined the light around until I saw the shape of a man with a bloody knife. He whirled around and held a finger to his lips before disappearing. Behind where he had been standing was Jake's lifeless body, his mouth sewn shut with the needle and spool of thread in his hand. I felt a tear go down my face as I ran back towards the steps, stopping and cringing as I heard Katie screaming for help. I bolted up the steps to see a woman holding her in her arms like a small child, blood covering her stitched mouth. Across the room, a towering creature with glowing red eyes and horns on its head. Katie's eyes met mine. "Help," she said quietly. I didn't get to move before the woman disappeared and the monster stood between us, facing with its back behind. I didn't get to move before the woman disappeared and the monster stood between us, facing with its back to me. I closed my eyes as I heard a scream and felt liquid splash my face. When I opened them, the beast was staring into my soul. Its putrid breath hit my face as it smiled with sharp teeth. "And one to feast on," it said. My breath caught my throat and it reached as it reached its hand and slashed down, cutting its claws across my face. I fell onto the floor, crawling away until I hit the corner of the room. It reached towards me, getting closer and closer. I closed again, preparing for the worst. A flash of light reflected through my closed eyes. but I wouldn't move. I screamed as a hand touched my shoulder, and I looked up. I saw a semi-transparent little girl with a mouth full of torn stitch smile at me. The monster was gone, and Katie's shredded body was laying on the floor. I looked at the little girl, who was giggling. The monster can't have your red. The monster can't have your red. I won't let him, she said. Why me? Why not them? I croaked, not daring to look at the blood. The girl looked back to Katie. Then me, tilting her head to the side and studied me. Because you need your red to protect those who need you. Mom? I croaked. She smiled. You should go. He wants to eat. With that, she flickered and faded away. Numbly, I pushed myself up from the floor and ran out the door, stumbling all the way. I sprinted across the yard, stopping and looking at the house at a hole in the fence. A man, a woman, and a boy with stitched mouths stood in the window, staring at me with empty eyes. Multiple other people stood behind them, with their mouths sewn as well. The missing kids. The little girl stood in the door, waving and smiling through her stitches. See you, Tara. Another tear fell down my face before I scrambled through the hole and ran back down the path, hearing roars all the way. I vaulted over the metal gate and jumped into the car, managing to get the key in the ignition and started, driving off. I was shaking as I adjusted the mirror. As the mirror faced the back seat again, I saw the little girl, blood dripping from her mouth. I lied. The monster can't have your red. She paused as I slammed down on the brakes, suddenly appearing in the passenger seat. The doors locked all around me as I looked at her, my heart hammering in my ears. Because I want it instead. I screamed as she reached towards me. The last thing I saw was red splattered against the windshield before my eyes closed. Heard the little girl say that one last line before I accepted death. Welcome to the Red family. Well, wasn't that fantastic? Thank you to the author, whoever that is. This is The Red House. It's got a 7.64. I can see that. It's all right. It's not my kind of story. I like real sounding stories. This one, it was a long read. Well, long read. It's not bad. We're going to go ahead and do maybe another one. I'm not sure how long I've been streaming for. Let's find another one real quick. I don't want to do the big popular ones because everyone does those, right? Jeff the Killer. If anyone knows any, you should tell me because I don't know any of the creepypastas anymore. Let's get that chat going, maybe. I don't know. All right, let's find another one. We'll pick a random one. This one was posted January 15th. Right now. Oh, that's a long one. No, thank you. 30 minutes. Here we go. There's another one. Nope, that's the same one. I thought I clicked the other one. So while I try and find another one, like I was telling you, the rules of what I've been doing with Halo: The Fall of Reach and this creepypasta is I'm just going to keep reading until I get tired of reading. And then any mess ups I have, because I mean, if you watched the recent stream, you'll see I had a hiccup. Then I went on for a little bit, and then I hit a hiccup again. Went on until it was whatever. But I'm going to edit them down to where they are better. Here we go. Here's another one. This one is called Operation Snow Blindness. Operation Snow Blindness. Before the emergence of television, radios were widely used as a means to broadcast news and announcements. In World War II, the rebel radio stations used Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which has a repeating motif of V in Morse codes. It indicates a victory. It didn't take long for the governments to find a way to use it for transmitting subliminal messages. It was not an easy task. The problem is to hide the message well, but at the same time, let it give clear instructions to the listeners. Some government psychologists proposed to attack the unconsciousness with hypnosis. For example, a radio program would broadcast news about a political target, and then immediately follows with a trajectory or a criminal story. And then immediately follows with a tragedy or a criminal story. To the usual listeners, they would think those are the same news, achieving character assassination in the subconscious level. One might ask the reason such propaganda was so hard to detect. It's simple. No false news were given. Thus, no one complained. Some government psychologists were skeptical about the unconsciousness hypnosis, and they turned to a more scientific method to brainwash the listeners. When the military was looking for an encrypted radio channel for transmitting sensitive battle information, they found a sound wave which only certain individuals can hear. At first, they thought it was something to do with the radar. At first, they thought it had something to do with radar silencing zone in a certain depth level of the ocean, where battleship radars can't detect submarines. However, it was found later that the sonar from the battleship was refracted away due to water temperature and pressure. That level in the ocean is known as the SOFAR channel, and the unrelated sound wave was later called ultrasound. Upon further research of ultrasound, the government scientists realized that only people younger than 25 years old could hear this sound wave, which was perfect for brainwashing because it was most effective when done to young listeners. The government would put screeching ultrasound along with things, countries, people they don't want younglings to like or associate with. The outcome of these brainwash efforts were impossible to monitor. Thus, their effectiveness was unable to be determined as well. With the emergence of the television, the government halted further research on soundwave hypnosis due to the decline of radio usage. With the emergence of television, the government halted further research on soundwave hypnosis due to the decline of radio usage. Instead, the government focused on how to use visual subliminal messages to brainwash the citizens. For example, commercials associated with a happy family with image of bald eagles and American flag, news associated death with split-second photos of political enemies or other country leaders. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and such a method was shown to be an effective one. Brainwashing by association was used very frequently. Governments would associate with its own religion with good and put out mottos like "God bless America," then demonize other religions and countries. Perhaps technology is its own demise. Many have the equipment and computer programs to decipher subliminal messages, either by looking at a certain news segment frame by frame or playing a popular song backwards to reveal the message. Further research was halted yet again, but not because the government was afraid of people exposing those subliminal messages. It was because the CIA has found a better way to brainwash the people. It was called Project Snowblindness. When a television's antenna receives no signal, the monitor would display static or a randomly generated black and white dots pattern, like snow. That was how it was explained to the public, but nothing is further from the truth. Ever wonder why antenna would make the television display this pattern of moving black and white dots instead of just a blank screen when receiving no signal? It's actually Project Snowblindness. A worldwide effort was made by all the countries of the major power to project A worldwide effort was made by all the countries of major power to broadcast Project Snowblindness around the globe 24/7. One might comment that he or she hasn't noticed any effect after staring at the static screen for a long time. That is because only 1 in 100 billion people can actually see the different shades of black and white. You see, most of us are colorblind. To be more specific, white and whiter black and blacker colorblind. While you can tell the difference between the different common colors such that you can watch your news or your favorite TV show, there are those people who can tell the difference of a few white and black colors, such that they can watch another news or another TV show that most people on Earth cannot see in the static. Well, that might be the most ridiculous thing you have heard. What good did Project Snowblindness do for the government if it was only broadcasted where no signal was received? Project Snowblindness was broadcasted whenever the government wanted, but most viewers would simply think the antenna wasn't receiving signals. The people who can't see Project Snowblindness turned off the television, while the few who can see it would think their antenna was fine. Because the majority of people were not seeing it, no complaint was taken seriously. You might ask, what good did Project Snowblindness do for the government? If it only affects 1 in 100 million people. Well, Project Snowblindness wasn't used as a propaganda device. It was used as instructions to train sleeper agents. Ultrasound was employed as well in conjunction with the project. It is unclear whether the governments in the world would have ceased using Project Snowblindness or turned to something more effective. But one thing is for sure. The people who successfully became sleeper agents eventually turned to government spies and assassins. The people who failed to become sleeper agents instead became terrorists and mass murderers, saying that they heard their god or gods giving them instructions and their permission to commit terrible acts. Well, I think that was kind of goofy, not gonna lie. Operation Snowblindness on Creepypasta. I didn't like that one all too much. I think it was trying to be a little too real world, if you know what I'm saying. Like, oh, this totally means something. It's pretty goofy. Like I was saying, if you see any great creepypasta, let me know and I will read it for you in this one or the next one. I think we're going to do one more. Hello to all my people who commented on Twitch. Hello, Two Barnes, I Barnes, E Barnes, and Turv. Hello. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to call it a day for this one, and then I'll try and edit these or have someone do it for me. I'll ask a friend maybe, or go on Fiverr and spend $5. I don't know. Money's kind of tight right now with this whole COVID thing. Let's find one more to do. I try and find shorter ones so I can get a bunch to go in one. If I just read one, it would just be like one reading and then we're done. I think we can do this one. We'll do this one. Maybe. I'm going to get some water. I'll be right back. We'll come right back to this one. I actually had a cup from earlier, right outside the door. It's good. Beautiful. All right. This one is called I Can't Wake Up by Max Minton, aka Holy Heretic. Thank you to that guy. Okay. I can't wake up. Though I've spiced up the narrative a bit, this is a mostly accurate account of what happens to me on a regular basis. Throughout my life, I've been diagnosed with various sleep disorders, the most common being insomnia. Some of the pills they give me to counter that end up with the opposite problem of me sleeping 15 hours a day, and one of the drugs gave me night terrors. In the end, I usually just take over-the-counter stuff to get to sleep. I just take a lot more than I should. 4 or 5 pills a night. It does the job. And I can still wake up and do things. Unfortunately, there's 7 to 8 hour period where I'm more or less incapable of waking up. My dreams have come to reflect this. This is one of those dreams. I'm in a room. It isn't particularly well lit, with only one small light in front of me. I look around. There's nothing in the room save some cabinets and a chair. And for some reason, I feel compelled to leave. When I do, I know I've made a mistake. I don't know why I feel that way. The hallway is unremarkable, with doors that presumably lead to rooms like mine, spaced consistently along the wall. I begin walking, looking for something. I don't know what, but I'm looking. I get to the end of the hallway, and I see it opens up into 2 more hallways, leading to left and right. I look down both. They seem to be the same. I choose the right. I get to the end of that hallway. It splinters off into one direction. I keep following it until I see that this direction doesn't actually lead anywhere. I go back to the original hallway I was in, and go left instead. Suddenly it hits me. I'm in a maze. As soon as that realization hits me, I can hear something else. A high-pitched, shrill cry of some kind of animal. Its claws hitting the steel floor. Click, clack, click, clack. There's something here. Something with me. A dangerous animal. Judging from the sound of its footsteps, it's walking, which means it doesn't know I'm here yet. If I stay quiet, choose the way I go carefully, I may be able to get to the end of this maze without even knowing I'm here. If I stay quiet, choose the way I go carefully, I may be able to get to the end of this maze without it even knowing I'm here. I move faster, but I make sure my feet hit the ground silently as possible, and it seems to be working. I get to another fork, but this one has 3 different directions, 1 going forward, 2 going to the left and right. Going forward is always a trap, I think. I go to the left. It isn't long before I see another fork. Click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. It's going faster. It may be able to smell me. I'll give it something to smell, then. I take off some of my clothes and quickly run down a corridor, a dead end, and leave them there. It isn't a foolproof plan, but acts of desperation so rarely are. I backtrack and keep moving. Clack, 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 clack. It's at a full gallop now. It knows I'm here. It's hunting me. I gotta keep moving. With any luck, it'll go after the fake scent, and that should get me confused for a bit. I hit a dead end. The sound is getting closer, but given that this is a maze, it could be coming right down my hallway, or in the hallway over. I'm not taking the chance. I go to the nearest door, which I've ignored up until now for reasons I can't place, and try to open it. but it won't open. It's locked. I could force it, but that would make so much noise. I go to the next door. It's locked too. I look inside the glass window and I'm shocked to see someone inside. Hey, I whisper. Hey, let me in. The person turns towards me. I know who he is. He's a friend of mine. Hey, let me in. It's Max. I whisper, this time a bit louder. There's something out here, man. He looks me dead in the eyes and turns around. I keep shaking the doorknob, but he doesn't turn to me. I keep shaking the doorknob, but he doesn't turn to look at me again. Hey, I say again, on the verge of tears. Please let me in. And then it hits me. I haven't heard that thing's claws in a while. I turn around and see it. It's just been staring at me this whole time, waiting for me to notice it. It's some kind of reptile. It's the size of a person, standing about 6 feet tall from head to tail. Probably about 9 feet long, though. Probably about 9 feet long. It's thin, though. It's made to be fast on its feet. Not a single pound of muscle goes to waste. Its arms are long and bony. Probably not very strong, but from the look of its claws, it doesn't have to be to get the job done. Its head is what scares me the most. It's about a foot long, and I can see its teeth. Long, thin, sharp, and numerous. But the worst part is, easily its eyes. Two at the front of its head, dark yellow with thin diamond-shaped iris. And they're both looking right at me. I turn and run. It waits for a second, then lets out a large battle cry. It waits for a second, then lets out a loud battle cry. A scream so high-pitched it hurt my ears if I had time to care. Then it runs after me. Of course, I find that the flaw in this plan as soon as it hits a dead end. Of course, I find out the flaw in this plan is as soon as I hit a dead end. It is a maze, after all. I turn and run back, thinking I can make it. I can get back to the intersection. I find myself on the ground, sliding. I only have a few seconds to glance over, but I know what happened. I ran right into the damn thing. It's on the ground. I push it into a wall, dazed it. I'm on the floor. For a brief moment, our eyes meet. I can get up faster than it can, but it doesn't focus on that. It takes a quick lunge at me. I manage to put my hands on its head, shove it to the ground using its momentum. In the process, getting to my feet. I make a break to the opposite direction. Make a few turns, praying I don't find a dead end. I hear another of its battle cries. It isn't as loud or high-pitched. It sounds almost indifferent. No, it sounds almost sarcastic. I happen to glance down, and I see why. When it lunged at me, one of its claws slashed my arm. I'm bleeding. I'm leaving a trail for it to follow. It doesn't even have to run anymore. It just has to wait until I find myself at a dead end. But I run anyway. There's something that tells me that there's an end to this maze. If I find it, I'm safe. I keep moving, keep making turns, but inevitably it happens. I hit a dead end. I turn around to see it, just barely moving at a jog. It sees me, and practically smiles at me. It knows I'm dead, and so do I. I fight it off as best I can, hitting it, trying to wrestle it to the ground so maybe I can run away again. But it slashes at me with its claws so many times that a few of my limbs don't even work anymore. It bites me, pulls things out of me. And all the while I'm thinking, God, this is familiar. Finally it hits me. I had dreams like this. I have dreams like this. I'm having this dream. Normally I'd wake up, but suddenly I find myself back at the beginning of the maze, inside the room. But I know it's a dream. a reoccurring dream I've had since I saw Jurassic Park as a kid. I'm told that most people, when they realize they're in a dream, they wake up. And I can tell that's what my mind wants. I'm fully conscious. I have my memories. I can remember what I had to eat before. I have all my memories. I can remember what I had to eat for dinner that night. I can remember taking my sleeping pills. I can remember what I was doing shortly before I decided to go to bed. But I can't wake up. I'm trying to get control of my real body. If I concentrate really hard, I can feel my arms and legs against the sheets. I can feel my eyes open. I can feel my eyes. They're closed. And I'm doing my best to open them. The feeling is like pushing against a wall. You can push harder and harder, but it never budges. I'm trapped in that nightmare and there's nothing I can do about it. So I figure, hey, if I can't wake up, maybe I don't need to. I'll just have a bit of fun until my alarm goes off. This is a dream, right? I can make it whatever I want to make it. Say hello to a couple of hours of preserved sexual fantasies. No. Say hello to a couple hours of perverse sexual fantasies. Except that's not how it works. Not for me, anyway. In the hundreds of times this has happened to me, I never managed to change the dream to something more preferable. I've been trapped in a dream that wasn't a nightmare, which wasn't so bad, if a bit boring. I had to deal with this until I wake up. I stayed in that room for a bit. Time is different in a dream. It felt like I stayed in that room, pacing back and forth, for hours. In reality, it was probably a few minutes. Finally, I decide that I just have to play this game. I go down the maze. It's different than it was before, I think. I get halfway into it and I hear the raptor coming for me. I get to thinking, maybe it's not afraid of it. Maybe if I'm not afraid of it, it won't be able to hurt me. That didn't work. Maybe it's because it's hard not to be afraid of something that's eating you and tearing you apart. Or maybe my subconscious just really hates me. In either case, I found myself back at the beginning, like respawning at a checkpoint in a video game. I did the maze about 50 times, each time ending in a rather painful failure. I actually tried to fight the raptor a few times. Closest I ever got to hurting it was jabbing its eye out. Once. But finally, it happened. My alarm goes off. I wake up. It takes me a while to shake off the dream and the sheer terror of what happened. But I can put it behind me. It's a Wednesday, a school day. I'm a junior in high school, and I have got shit to do. I get in my car, drive to school, buy some breakfast from Burger King on the way while listening to the best of Aerosmith CD. I get to school. I have to park all the way in the back of the parking lot and walk half a mile. I talked to some of my friends over the morning announcements, and I'm late to first period. My teacher dogs me for not doing my homework, but I blow her off. She starts the class. It's government, and we're going over the judiciary branch. The feeling creeps up on me, slowly. I happen to glance at the clock. It says it's 4:30, but I just figured it's off or busted. But then I have this feeling that I've been here before. I open some of my stuff to find there are no words in any of my books. Then it hits me. I graduated high school years ago. The car I drove on, I sold it last year. I lost that CD too. And those friends I talked to before class, I haven't seen them in I don't know how long. One of them is dead. I'm still dreaming. And I'm going to keep dreaming until my alarm goes off, and there isn't anything I can do about it. All right. That was a good one. That was a pretty good one. All right. I like that one. This one was... Oh, man. I gotta load again. This one was I Can't Wake Up. So, like I was saying, that's what we're going to do is I record them or I stream them, then I download it. I'm going to edit them or have someone edit them for me, like I'll ask a friend. Um, I'll try and do some more readings. If you came for part 1 of The Fall of Reach, be sure to check out part 2 that I'm going to have it coming up soon, because if you're watching the stream, everyone has been ordered to stay inside, at least in Georgia where I am. So most of the country is on lockdown in the United States, so we all got to stay inside. So I have plenty of time to do this. I mean, what else can I do? If you want me to voice anything, go to Fiverr.com and $5 and I'll read anything you want pretty much. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of The Original Nick Show, or Nick Reads, or check out Original Nick 1337 on Twitch, Original Nick Games. I'm on a lot of stuff. Check out Lorecast. The podcast is coming back. We've been on like a 3-week hiatus or whatever. We're bringing it back. So check out Lorecast on Spotify, YouTube, or Twitch. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.